Hello, everyone. Welcome in to episode 217 of Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sport. It is January 23rd here in America. I'm assuming it's January 24th, down where Gus is at, in Sao Paulo, Americana, Brazil. And I wish, Gus, I had your weather. Unfortunately, the weather is just not good. I'll just leave it at that in the United States right now.
Yeah, I'm actually in the city of São José do Rio Preto. We can translate as Saint Joseph of Black River, down in the center, almost north of the state of Sao Paulo, where Rio Branco will be playing today against Rio Preto Sport Club. So, yeah, but I'm ready to talk some sports, definitely. A lot of football. We have a new college football national championship, NFL championship weekend. So a lot to talk about.
100%. Let's get right into it here on this late night edition. Let's look back to earlier this week on Monday when the Indiana Hoosiers and the Miami Hurricanes battled in a game watched by over 30 million viewers, the most watched national title game since 2014. And it was a very good game, very competitive game. But the Indiana Hoosiers, the number one seed, the number one team in the country, was able to get a last-minute stand, a last-second interception of Carson Beck to secure a championship, 27-21, 16-0, Gus. I mean, what an accomplishment for the Indiana Hoosiers and Kirsten Kennedy, of course, Heisman Trophy winner, Fernando Mendoza. I mean, this team... It was unfathomable to see them actually pull this off because a lot of people question if 16-0 could happen with this format. And the fact that it was the Indiana Hoosiers who did it first is just absolutely mind-boggling to me, Gus.
Oh, yeah, 100%, especially because, the way they did it without any five-star recruit, it's the biggest. Can we say it's the biggest sports turnaround, not only in the United States of America, but in the world? Because if you think about it, there's no history. We can maybe mirror with Leicester City.
That's exactly what I was bringing up. This is like the Leicester City of American sports.
Yeah. I think that's the same comparison because Leicester City won the Premier League. When you had all those rich teams, Chelsea, Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, with big money, those rosters filled with international superstars, and they won the Premier League fair and square. They dominated the league, and Indiana Hoosiers did just that. They dominated college football from regular season to the playoffs, winning, Oregon Ducks twice, Ohio State, Alabama, Miami. So I think we can say it's the most undisputed national championship probably in history. There's no question that Indiana Hoosiers deserve to be called national champions.
Yeah, and this team really did it in a variety of ways, right? They could go up and throw up a bunch of points, or they could go out and play a very solid defensive game. And the lines of scrimmage for Indiana, given the fact they didn't have any five stars, is just mind-boggling to me. Like it's so impressive how they were able to really build up that football team. And you got to give a lot of credit to all that staff, not just Signetti, right? But strength coach like Derek Owens, who's now a Tennessee Volunteer, which it really excites me. Hopefully he can get our team looking like that because Tennessee, like this year, our team looked very weak at times. Like they were getting pushed around, and Indiana never got pushed around. Even in this game versus Miami, the only teams this year that could really physically go with Indiana back and forth. But Indiana held their own in this football game, and that is just super, super impressive for the Hoosiers to be able to go into basically a road game. But then again, really, there were more Indiana fans there. But a Miami team, which on paper has more talent, and they were playing teams with more talent all year, like Oregon and Alabama and Ohio State, and they just were able to outclass them physically every single time. And that's just a mindset, it's just willpower. I think it goes a lot to the leadership of Signetti. And also, it's the leadership of a guy like, Fernando Mendoza. I think Mendoza is one of the single most charismatic college football players we've seen in a very long time. Like, those guys rallied around him. I mean, you can say he's corny. You can say he is a little strange in his post-game interviews, but that dude rallies the locker room behind him. And I think that those types of intangibles are going to carry over. I was having this debate earlier about whether or not he was going to be a good NFL quarterback, and I really think he's going to be. I think he always makes really good decisions. I think he has the size to be the NFL quarterback. I think he has the arm strength to be the NFL quarterback. And I think he's going to be a Las Vegas Raider, I think, because he just has a lot of what you want in a franchise guy. And a guy like Mendoza, I mean, for a franchise like the Raiders that has just been mired in mediocrity in turmoil for decades at this point, it feels like they need a guy like Mendoza to come in and change the attitude of that locker room. And I think seeing what he did with Indiana, like giving that state hope, like Mendoza to the state of Indiana, to the Indiana fan base. I mean, that guy will have a statue for what he did this year. And he was only there for 1 year, which is truly phenomenal. And I think it goes to show, right? Like, yeah, we're going to miss this era of 4 or 5 year players being at one place for years and developing. But you can be a legend if you come here 1 year. Like, I mean, think about like a Dalton Connect in Tennessee basketball, right? Like, he was only a Rocky Top for a couple of months. But, I think many of us would say he might be the best Tennessee basketball player we've ever seen. So for Indiana, for them, Mendoza is going to be the best they've ever seen. And and that play, the last touchdown Indiana had in this game, I mean, he threw his body on the line. There's not a lot of quarterbacks, I think, would do that in that situation, and Mendoza did. And that was just absolutely gutsy in that performance. I will say, I think Carson Beck played well in this game, too. Granted, he made the mistake at the end, the interception. But, Indiana had a really good defense. And I thought Beck did battle in this game. Just, unfortunately, too many mistakes for Carson Beck and for Miami, and just not enough offense to overcome Indiana in this football game. I still think, Mario Cristobal and that program have a lot to be proud of. I think they've proven a lot of us wrong in terms of their ceiling, right? Like, Miami has proven they have a national championship title ceiling. I do think that, it would have helped to maybe be a little bit better at the quarterback position this year, but they're also a very young roster. And I think that if they can keep most of their talent, which I don't see any reason why they won't keep their talent, I think they'll be right back in this in years to come. You're muted, Gus.
Well, yeah, 100%. But I think the person who deserves the most credit in this title, undeniably, is Curt Cignetti, because he inherited a program that the fan base was basically hopeless. They treated the football program like some sort of a side piece, like something. Oh, we have a football program, but mostly we maybe would hopefully to be competitive against maybe Michigan State, maybe upset Michigan, Ohio State. And he went there and said, we're going to change the culture. And he did just that in not only in 2 seasons, but in year 1, he already made the college football playoff, which, a lot of blue blood programs still haven't made. And year 2, winning the national championship with 16-0.
Yeah, and the whole like going up to the podium saying "Google me, I win" in his opening press conference is now one of the most iconic lines in American sports.
Oh yeah, and shout out to my friend Gustavo Barbudo watching me. He's definitely probably excited about Rio Branco's game tomorrow, here today in a couple of hours. So thank you for watching, Gustavo Barbudo. Tamo junto, Barbudão. And first of all, another season calling Rio Branco games on the radio for an 18-year-old guy, impressive, So shout out to my friend Barbudo. But back to the Kurt Signetti legacy. I think if he continues something like that, he is definitely have to be considered for NFL job, because what he did at Indiana, it's unheard of in college football history.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were some jobs trying to reach out to him now, although he seems to have indicated that he is a college football guy. He doesn't want to go to the NFL, at least what I've seen. Granted, if someone paid him enough money, would he consider it? Maybe. But Kirk Cincinnati seems to be perfect for college football, and I don't think he's going to leave college football. And I don't think he's going to leave Indiana. Like, I think he's got it set. Like, he is a royalty. And to me, he's basically, college football Tony Vitello, right? Take a dead program that no one really cared about and make them into national champions. Can Indiana keep on to theirs is the question. So, for Indiana, what?
But at the end of the day, you want to go where you elevate your profile or you get paid the most. So probably
I would argue though that being a top head coach in college football is better than being a top head coach in the NFL. It's not like the MLB in college baseball. Like MLB is so much bigger than college baseball.
That's fair. That's fair. But at the end of the day, he should consider the NFL job. But it's so funny that he embraces college football, and changed the landscape when a lot of head coaches in football say, "Oh, I want to move away from college football." For example, Nick Saban, when Meyer retired, Jim Harbaugh went to the NFL, and he's proving that he can be a successful college football coach, and and not complain, but use the system in his advantage, not complain about the system.
Right. I mean, and that's just different skill sets are needed for today's college football head coach than were needed 10, 15 years ago. And, there's all kinds of talk right now about what the calendar should look like. And we've definitely discussed this at length about what the calendar should look like to fix the transfer portal. But before we get into all of that, guys, I want to take a 9,000-foot look at just the college football playoff as a whole. Because I feel like, if I'm being honest, last year, the 12-team playoff had some good games, but I honestly didn't think it was great. I thought, like, oh, God, we expanded the playoffs for a lot of teams that cannot win the national championship. This year, though, I think this playoff this year showed a lot more of what it was capable of, right? Like, we had several really interesting games. We saw that interesting run with Miami. We saw that, yes, you can survive the bye and still, go on a run like Indiana. I think, obviously, the key thing that needs to be fixed here is the G5 bids have got to go. I mean, you got to be good enough to be there. If we're only going to have 12 or expand it even more, which I know for next year is still going to remain at 12, but there are talks in the future of expanding it to 16 or 24. But the expanded college football playoff with better scheduling, with making it a bit more condensed, not much time in between, it will become the second biggest tournament in American sports behind the NFL playoffs. And arguably, it will become bigger than March Madness, in my opinion, if it's done correctly and it's done within a short product. Because, I mean, think about this. Over 30 million people watched this game on a Monday night. That's a late game that didn't end until like 11:30. What if we got this game in a slot that more people could watch? I mean, think about this. Most people who love college football are either in the South or the Midwest. We need to get the sport in the right slots, in a better slot, on like a weekend, preferably. And college football will.
But Nick, for me, the problem is not the format; it's the There can't be a 10-day hiatus between games in playoffs. It has to be 1 week tops. And for me, the perfect system is the semis has to be played on New Year's Eve, and the national championship has to be maybe January 7, 8, or 9. Like, because the dates when it was like a 14 playoff was great. The semis on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. I I don't understand why they put more on New Year's Eve. For example, the Ohio State.
It's to appease
What?
the bowl games. I mean, it's to appease the New Year's Six bowl games because those bowl games don't want to go away. But unfortunately, I think at this point in time, the bowl games have to go away.
No, but we can include them, which I don't understand. For example, back in I think 2022-23 season, for example, the timing was great. For example, the who can forget Ohio State Georgia? The last of the game and the clock hitting midnight. All of that. For me, semis, New Year's Eve, and the national championship January 8th, and figure out where to put the quarterfinals and the first round.
Yeah. I mean, and the two things are one, like the Rose Bowl is like, oh, we got to be on January 1st no matter what. And so you got to like basically tell them, look, at this point, you got to hit the curb at this point in terms of that, because unfortunately you just don't have that place anymore in the modern sport with the calendar, with the transfer portal, and you got to tell Army Navy that it's got to be in the regular season with everyone else. It can't wait till a week by itself anymore. Like, I'm sorry, I get that's destroying even more tradition in a sport where we're already destroying all kinds of tradition, but at this point, you've got to like commit to what's best for the product, and what's best for the product here is making sure it's in a condensed format and give every single team a chance to actually fairly compete in the transfer portal. So it's just a situation that we find ourselves in, and like this portal just continues to be nuts, right? Like, I mean, we still don't have a resolution to the Darian Mensah situation. He's trying to transfer to Miami. Duke doesn't really want him to, won't let him. They won't let him out of his contract, so the judge is getting involved. Now, we still have some players committing left and right. I mean, we have, the Vols got a quarterback from Colorado, Ryan Staub. I watched some tape. Not really heavily impressed. I don't think he'll be the starter next year. I really do think George McIntyre is going to be your guy. I'm going to be the QB1, which I'm excited for. I think he has a lot of talent. He's got to get a little bit bigger, but I think with a new nutritionist, new strength coach, I think he will.
Yeah, the portal continues, to be something that even though it closes, but the chaos will continue because players want to take advantage of it, head coaches want to take advantage of. But at the end of the day, I feel like you have, I won't say kill traditions, just repurpose. I think you're not killing the Rose Bowl tradition. And if you want to play on New Year's Day, so be it. But it has to be the semis. It cannot be the quarterfinals. Now, I prefer, and I think it's more cool to play on New Year's Eve. But okay, if you have to play on New Year's Day, fine. But make it a semifinal, or it can't accommodate all the nuances. So and today it was announced that they're going to remain the 12-team playoffs because there was a lot of discussions for 16 and even 24. So this format is here to stay.
Yeah, at least for the time being, until this TV contract ends, and we'll have to see what happens with the grant of rights in the ACC and everything else. But it's going to be fascinating to see how it works out, because I think the Big Ten and the SEC will still ultimately break away. Because you look at a team like Texas Tech and their schedule next year, I mean, it's a joke. They play maybe 2 to 3 good teams on their schedule, and that's it. So compared to what some of the SEC schedules are going to look like, it's There's a lot of growing pains. I think still college football will have to go through to get to a more unified place, but I think they will get to a more unified place eventually. Also, sponsorship patches are coming to college football. The NCAA has said that you can have sponsorship patches on your uniform. So I guess we're going to get some Weigels and or Food City patches for the Vols, I'm assuming, which is certainly fascinating. I don't love it, but like then again, you see it on every other, you know, sports league at this point, right? Like like I'm watching the Nuggets and the Bucks here, and of course, they're showing Giannis, and he's got like a Motorola patch on his jersey, and we're talking to the Nuggets here, and they've got an Ibotta logo on their jersey. So I mean, it's very commonplace, and like in soccer, obviously, it's very
Oh
traditional.
yeah, I have to show you, and I'll try to show, for example, Rio Branco jerseys, and you're gonna be astonished for how many sponsorship you can fit in a jersey.
Right, yeah. These teams have to raise money. So, I mean, teams have to raise money, and apologies for the yelling or for the yawning there. This is what happens when you're preparing for an ice storm. But it's just a part of making the money, and obviously all these schools are in an arms race, and what's gonna be interesting too is to see like I think that Indiana winning the national championship. I wonder what that does to some of these other non-traditional football programs, right? Like what about like a Maryland? What about like a Minnesota? What about like teams that we don't normally think of as football contenders? Because like no one was talking about Indiana 2 years ago. Um, is it going to inspire some of these teams to try to
Yeah,
invest?
it's gonna be the slogan. Why not us? Why
Yeah,
not our football program can be totally revamped, and and not only that, but if you look at the semifinals, all four programs were basically 3 years ago very very far away from national title, and they were, they made it. So
yeah. I mean, I have a hot take. Sitting here thinking that what program I think could be next that could be like this.
what
I think
program?
Oklahoma State. I think that with the hire of Eric Morris, North Texas coach, he's basically got their entire roster over there. Um, I think Oklahoma State could be fairly. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be Indiana good. I don't think they're going to be Indiana good, but I think they'll be at least top half of the Big 12 next year. And who knows, right? Like everything about a team that could just explode out of nowhere. We know Oklahoma State in the past has been very competitive. Like if they don't lose in Ames, Iowa in 2011, they're playing for a national championship. So it can be done in Stillwater. Um, so we'll see what they do post Mike Gundy. But hey, that's just a hot take. But I mean, any team you put in there would be a hot take, I think, for that particular opinion. But another college football season is over, which is always sad. Then again, for me, it felt like college football season was over anyway for 2 months, considering the Vols blew it at the end of the year, blew it against Oklahoma. Although I didn't expect them to make the playoffs to begin with, but we're a little bit over 7 months away from meaningful football again being played in
Yeah,
college
and it's all gonna kick off. Do you know where?
in Sao Paulo.
No,
Where
Rio,
Rio, UVA, and NC State.
Rio. And I'm gonna reach out, probably start this week, to those communications department to try as much as I can to be there and witness college football in my country. It's, for me, it's still surreal that's gonna happen. It's still surreal.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk some NFL playoffs here. And we got to start off with the Buffalo Bills, who once again lost in heartbreaking fashion in Denver's 33-30 overtime loss. And let's talk with the game first before we get to the end. I think this game was lost in one particular way. So it's a tight game in the first half. The the Broncos take a 17-10 lead. There's 20 seconds left in the first half. The Bills get the ball back. They have no timeouts. They have the ball on their own 25. They should just take a knee and go into the break down a touchdown. Instead, they run Josh Allen. They let Josh Allen run. And keep in mind, in this half, they already had 4 fumbles. And he fumbles and gives the Broncos free points. And that ends up being the difference in this football game, was free points. Just an absolute colossal coaching mistake by Sean McDermott.
And that's why he was fired.
Yeah, just stuff like that. Like, sometimes you just gotta know when to take a knee and just get to the locker room, right? Like you can't. You had turned over the ball 4 times in the first half, and you were only down a touchdown. Like, take that and run. Like, I don't understand why they're being so aggressive there right before halftime. And I said it right then and there. People I was watching with that they're going to lose because of that. Now, I know there was the controversial interception at the end, and there's a mixed opinions whether or not that was an interception or a catch. Personally, like I still think it was an interception because I just don't ever feel like that the Bills receiver was able to hold on to the ball. But that's obviously very debatable. But I think the game was lost truly in the first half with that decision. And to me, the Bills wouldn't have been in that particular situation if they had just not given the Broncos free points at the end of the first half. And for the Bills, I mean, it's just what they do. I mean, this is Buffalo Bills football. I mean, you literally don't have to deal with Lamar Jackson. You don't have to deal with Patrick Mahomes. And they still can't get it done. They just can't get it done. I mean, going back to the 90s, this is what the Buffalo Bills do. They just can't get it done. I mean, you can have a generational quarterback in Josh Allen who does everything for your team. And he just can't get it done.
Maybe the new stadium will bring some, they'll lift their curse, because at this point, Buffalo Bill fans think, are we the most cursed franchise in American sports?
Well, them are like the Vikings, probably.
No, but the Vikings, they never, I mean, what franchise makes it not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 title games and lost at all? There's none. Probably maybe the Utah Jazz.
Something like that. Yeah, the Utah Jazz. I'm trying to think of a baseball equivalent, because it feels like every franchise has won at least one at this point, right? I mean, like the Seattle Mariners, maybe.
No, but it's one thing to not win a title, but for example, you compare the Vikings, but they never, if I'm not mistaken, they never made to the Super Bowl, right?
They've made it to the Super Bowl several times. They just have never won it. They made it back with Fran Tarkenton a couple of times. Like, I want to say they haven't been to the Super Bowl since the 70s. Yeah, they made it to 4 Super Bowls in the 70s and lost all of them. But they weren't in a row, but they made it several times in the 70s.
Yeah, but definitely they are really cursed. That's undisputed.
Yeah. But do we think firing Sean McDermott is the right decision? Personally, I think it was. I think he's very clear that he's never going to get it done as the coach. And I think the GM should have been fired too, because you have a generational quarterback in Josh Allen, and the roster you are putting around him is absolute garbage. Like, especially on offense, like, these receivers aren't good, in my opinion. Like, Keaton Coleman's all right, but like, this isn't good enough. Ever since you let Stephon Diggs walk a few years ago, you have not been able to replace him. James Cook is decent, but he's really good, but that's not enough. Like, the receivers here are not good. And I think the GM deserves a lion's share of the blame for not going all in to give his star quarterback a chance to win a Super Bowl. And so I'm surprised he wasn't canned too, in addition to McDermott. And what's interesting here too is the owner basically came out and admitted that, yeah, I made the decision in the locker room. Like this was a fit of rage firing, which is kind of it's an interesting thing for an owner to openly admit because yeah, I mean, I've obviously been angry and I say stuff after a loss that ultimately I'm like, okay, that's not really smart. But for an owner to openly say, like, yeah, that's my perspective, it could make some more top level candidates think twice about coming to Buffalo.
Oh yeah, 100%. I feel like the owner was very candid about it, and maybe running out of patience because definitely, as you point out, it's another loss that infuriates the fan base because they're basically wasting the talent of a generation quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to be the biggest waste since Luck, in my opinion, at this point. And the roster situation almost reminds me a little bit of the Colts with Luck in terms of how much you're wasting a top level talent. Um, Now, speaking of Colts quarterbacks, apparently today they interviewed Philip Rivers, not to be a quarterback, to be the head coach for the Buffalo Bills. He literally had just played games this time last month. And currently is the head coach of a high school team down in Alabama. What would you think about Philip Rivers being the head coach of the Buffalo Bills with no NFL head coaching experience? No NFL coaching experience, period.
First of all, let's just pause and see from Philip Rivers' perspective. A couple of months ago, he was just trying to win the Alabama state championship, trying to, be the best high school head coach. And then he goes on to play quarterback for the Colts and now be interviewed as a head coach for the Bills. So all I can say is what a turnaround. I can not even imagine Philip Rivers' family. He's a family man, and they were like all set and out. The
I mean,
what?
and that's an understatement on being a family man. He's got a whole football team.
Yeah,
As his children,
yeah.
you
So
know, but it's fascinating. I seriously doubt the Bills will do this because, like, coaching in the NFL is very high. Now, it's different. Now, a high level quarterback like Philip Rivers, he could do it, I think. I mean, obviously, like you have to just know football inside and out to be a high level NFL quarterback. And Philip Rivers, I think a lot of people were remarking like when he played, like all the adjustments Philip Rivers was making at the lines of scrimmage. You don't really see a lot of modern day quarterbacks do that. So it was definitely a harkening back to that era that Philip Rivers came from. And maybe he would be really good in that role. And obviously, I would be curious to see what coordinators he would bring with him. But I mean, Philip Rivers, I think for Josh Allen, I mean, those two are very similar. Like Josh Allen is a more mobile Philip Rivers, at least back when he was younger, right? Like obviously, people think about like the Philip Rivers you just saw. That's not the Philip Rivers in his prime. Philip Rivers was mobile in his prime. He never could run like Josh Allen though. So that would be a very interesting match. And Philip Rivers and Josh Allen too. I mean, I do think we look at them just culture. There's a lot of similarities between those two individuals, just the way they carry themselves. And hey, I mean, Josh Allen does need a pointer or two about being a new dad. I mean, he is about to be a new dad with his wife, Haley Steinfeld. So having Philip Rivers as your head coach would certainly be someone to get some good pointers. Not that it has anything to do with football, but and what's also interesting too is Josh Allen is literally sitting in the interviews, which you rarely see a player get that type of access. But clearly, they want Josh Allen to be happy with this move, and because they know Josh Allen is their football team right now, and they better find a way to get him the cast he needs. Because if they let another generational quarterback leave Buffalo without a Super Bowl championship, then Buffalo does not deserve to have another generational quarterback for decades. Or a whole generation. Like, you deserve to be cursed if you waste another generational quarterback.
Yeah, and I think the AFC, you have to take consideration your quarterback, and what he kind of wants the direction of the coaching staff to be, because again, he is the most consequential player on the field. But I think Philip Rivers as a head coach, maybe too premature. I would give a couple of years. Maybe he has a college experience, but you'll be very bold hire. I'll say that.
He would be. Now, on the other side of this game, the Broncos got some really bad news after the game because Bo Nix, their quarterback, he tore his ACL. He's out for the rest of the playoffs on the second to last play of the game. And you got to be give credit. I was not a huge fan of Bo Nix coming out of college, and I do think he is. He's inconsistent at times, but he has been clutch this year. He has shown up. He has played very well. And honestly, he's a good quarterback for Sean Payton's system. A very good quarterback for that particular system. I don't think he is like a Drew Brees level quarterback, obviously, but I mean, he's pretty good. And this is going to be a big loss for the Broncos this week as they get ready for the AFC title game, because I mean, I don't think Jarrett Stidham will come anywhere close to what Bo Nix has been doing.
Yeah, definitely it's going to be the player that, Sean Payton's going to be most kind of trust. And definitely he's going to have to think about some schemes to figure out a way to win without him.
Absolutely. And also, on a side note, I totally forgot that Doc Rivers is now the head coach of the Denver Nuggets. I just saw him pop up on the TV here because I have it on. He's the head coach of the Bucks. Sorry, I'm just like, for one, I was just like, Doc Rivers is still coaching, but because and that's another guy we always like rag on when we get to the NBA, like the most overrated coach in basketball, because it just feels like every time Doc Rivers gets into the playoffs, they always lose. I mean, just look at the Clippers. But also, just getting back to football here, the 49ers, San Francisco, it was just a bloodbath in Seattle on Saturday night, 41-6. Also, I want to say shout to Jason, our friend Jason Wyrick, who's in Denver right now at a national supporters conference representing Indy 11 in Denver. So he'll be around a lot of Broncos fans. I know he is looking forward to trying to troll them because he does not like the Broncos very much. So shout out to Jason. But in any case, the 49ers, it was just a bad night, 41-6. I mean, it just everything that could go wrong did go wrong. From the first play of the game was a kick return for a touchdown.
Hey, Nick.
Yeah.
Is that your phone that's making that noise?
Yeah, I'm trying to charge my laptop, and it's giving me some issues here on my end. So yeah, that's on my end. Like it's going. So that's on me.
Okay, I was just curious because I was like, I'm not charging my. I was like, what? But okay, go on. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else the 49ers could have done in this game. I don't know if there was anything else they could do in this game. The injuries kind of caught up with them here, and for Kyle Shanahan, it's another postseason with an L.
Yeah, especially the way they lost it, and they got humiliated twice in probably a month period to the Seattle Seahawks. So definitely he couldn't figure out a way to beat the Seahawks.
Yeah, and that's just tough when the 49ers were basically the third best team in their own division. So it's just a rough one, but hey, we'll see what they do. I mean, Brock Purdy will come back next year. You don't know how much longer CMC has, how much longer George Kittle has. They got to figure out something about the injuries. Like, just the 49ers get more injured than any team, it feels like. I know there's been some discussion about an electric substation next to Levi Stadium that may be a a contributing factor to that, possibly. I mean, I don't know what the veracity of those claims are, but like clearly there's something going on that is leading to the 49ers not being able to sustain themselves. And if they can't ever sustain themselves, they're just not going to win at a high level in the postseason.
Yeah, it's a very weird situation. I mean, I saw those and I was like, maybe makes sense, but the 49ers can't rule anything out, so they have to investigate that.
Yes, they absolutely should. Now, moving over to Sunday in New England, CJ Stroud. I feel like no player has taken a bigger reputational hit this postseason than CJ Stroud. I think if you asked most people heading into these playoffs, most people would say that CJ Stroud was a very good quarterback. He threw 7 interceptions in the last 2 games. Now, they got away with it in Pittsburgh because the Steelers had no offense. Could not get away with that in New England. Like, it just had 4 picks in the first half. An utter disaster of a game for Stroud. I mean, like, the Texans otherwise would have been in this game. The defense did play well for the Texans. They had an amazing defense this year. But CJ Stroud blew it and threw it away. And I still think Stroud has been a good quarterback for Houston, but man, this is going to be one where he's going to have to like fight back from it. Otherwise, people are going to turn against him as the franchise quarterback, because this is the type of performance that fans remember for a very long time. And like, if you're CJ Stroud, right, like that, like this has got to fuel you. Because I mean, I know that you can say the receiving core is not the best, but like it was good, right? Yeah, Nico Collins. I know he was hurt Sunday, but you still had Christian Kirk. You still had some other decent pieces there, and it just the throw interceptions is just horrific.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, as you point out perfectly, he was able to save himself because of the Steelers kind of not being able to lead an offense. But that performance on the, definitely is gonna, the coaching staff and the front office in Houston rethink probably.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you're not going to like replace him right now, but there's a lot of questions here. It reminded me a lot of like when the Titans played the Ravens in 2020 with Ryan Tannehill, and he played awful, and you're like, okay, well, obviously you're not going to replace him right now, but that can't happen again in the playoffs. And then it did the year after. It's like, okay, well, Ryan Tannehill is never going to win a championship. It feels like CJ Stroud's in that situation now, so. Well, we'll see if Stroud can get back to the playoffs and if he can recover from that.
Oh yeah, definitely something that we'll see if he can get back.
In the last game of the week, in a game in Chicago, an absolute epic, the Bears, they tried to pull off another comeback, and it didn't happen for them this time. They lost in overtime. And once again, this was coaching malpractice by Ben Johnson, who I was about to absolutely roast over the coals last week, but his team won. I'm roasting over the coals today, though. Ben Johnson, you're a very good offensive mind. Your offense is very exciting. You have fixed Chicago this year. You have got to take the points. Like you, Dan Campbell, like Dan Lanning, some of these other coaches, take the dang points. I am sorry if it's early in the game and you can get free points, get free points. Like, and I understand, right? Like I play college football 26. I'm very aggressive. I want to go for touchdowns, but sometimes I've had to teach myself, like, look, take 3 points. Take 3 points. And if you're the Chicago Bears, you would be playing in Seattle this week if you had just taken 3 points on several occasions earlier in this football game and not require your heroics to bail you out. And now Caleb Williams, shout out to him. There should be no one doubting him. This dude is a franchise quarterback. He is going to have several chances to possibly win a Super Bowl with Chicago. That is only if Ben Johnson learns his lesson from this postseason, because Ben Johnson, obviously, amazing turnaround this year, but he has got to learn from it because he lost Chicago that game the other night. The coach alone, Ben Johnson, lost this game for Chicago. He has got to learn to take the points because otherwise, if he doesn't, then he will be the reason why Chicago never wins a Super Bowl. And it'll be like Dan Campbell in Detroit. And like these coaches who can turn around a locker room, win a lot of games, but they can't win in the postseason because their egos are too big and they have to go for it on fourth down.
Yeah, because they think when they're postseason they want to be aggressive, but sometimes not being aggressive can get you the points that eventually decides the game.
Right.
So definitely something that the bear he's gonna reflect all off season.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, these points are there. These games are so close, whether it's the Bills letting the Bills get free points or the Bears giving up free points. And as we saw in both cases, it cost them the games. And, for the Rams, you got to give credit to them for just taking advantage of it because I thought the Bears played better, but the Rams found a way to get it done. So, looking ahead at these games this week, we have the AFC title game, the Patriots at the Broncos, Mile High City. The Broncos with Jared Stidham at quarterback. How much of a drop off do we expect here with the Broncos offense?
I'll say, probably the Patriots are going to be more favorite, but you have to consider as well the home field advantage. So I think 50-50.
Yeah, I think too. Like we can think about the Broncos offense, but I still think the Broncos defense is still really good, right? And I'm not totally sold that the Patriots offense is great. That the Patriots offense does not look great in this postseason. Like they didn't look great against the Chargers and they didn't look great against the Texans. Granted, those are two of the best defenses in the NFL, and they did enough to win. But the Broncos are also a very good defense for the New England Patriots. I don't know. Like, yeah, we talk about Jared Stidham. We don't. I've seen the guy play in person. I saw him play at 2018 Auburn, Tennessee, a game that we won. I saw Jared Garantano outplay him. And now, Jared Stidham is starting in an AFC Championship game. Like, I do think a lot of this will come down to RJ Harvey on the Denver running back. How much can he affect this game? But I don't know. I think that the Patriots are going to have too much here. And I don't trust the Broncos to be able to score enough of a backup quarterback. So I think New England's going to win this.
For me, give me Denver. I think Denver is gonna, somehow find ways to score, especially without their starting quarterback. Give me the Broncos.
Yeah. And then the other end, we got in Seattle. We've got the Los Angeles Rams, the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, this also feels like too a day where the MVP could be decided, right? Drake May with the Patriots, Matthew Stafford with the Rams. And I think the thing here, right, the Seahawks look like such a complete football team, right, with what they did to the 49ers the last two games. Can the Rams play up to their potential, right? Like, because I feel like I said all year, I feel like the Rams had the most talented roster, but the Seattle Seahawks are playing like the best roster. And can the Rams force Sam Darnold into a situation where he has to win the football game? Like Sam Darnold didn't have to do much of anything last week. Just didn't have to, just had to like take care of the ball and did what he had to do. And it reminded me a lot of when Russell Wilson won the Super Bowl in Seattle, right? Like he wasn't amazing, but he did enough to win because he had such a great defense, had great running backs. And there's a chance here Seattle can do enough. But I do think that Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua and the rest of the Rams are going to give Seattle a run for their money. And we're going to find out whether or not Sam Darnold can get it done. Because Sam Darnold's going to have to prove at some point he can get it done.
Yeah, because to win a game like that, you have to at least be in the same level as your opponent quarterback. And on paper, Matthew Stafford is way better than Sam Darnold, but on the field, let's see if this capitalizes or not.
Yeah, because I do think the Seahawks have the better team. I really do. However, this is, I think, one of those games that's going to make people realize that Matthew Stafford is probably one of the top 10 to 15 quarterbacks we've ever seen. Because Matthew Stafford does not get talked about enough in terms of how good he is. And he's going to have an amazing game here to win this. And honestly, I think he's going to. Give me the Rams to pull it off on the road.
Me too. Give me the Rams.
So I'm going with both. So my Super Bowl is going to be Patriots-Rams. Gus's Super Bowl is Broncos-Rams.
Yours is a rematch of the 2018 Super Bowl. Mine, I guess, wouldn't be a rematch at all.
I don't think it's ever happened. Because the Rams and Patriots have played twice in Super Bowls. The Rams-Patriots played the one in 2002, and then they played the one in 2018. So Broncos-Rams has never happened, as far as I'm aware. Because the Broncos beat like the Packers back in the day when they won their Super Bowl in the 90s. And just early guess there, I would favor the Rams in that Super Bowl.
Me too, especially on a neutral site.
Yeah. And that would be nuts too if the Rams won the Super Bowl in San Francisco. That will irritate the folks in North California.
Oh, 100%.
Anyway, we have a litany of NFL hires. So let's kind of rapid fire go through these. Starting with my Tennessee Titans, we have Robert Saleh, the 49ers DC, former Jets head coach. I'll be honest, like I've talked to a lot of people. Some people don't love this hire.
Me too. I'm one of those people.
I like it personally. I really think that Saleh got a raw deal in New York. You got screwed by the Aaron Rodgers situation. He's going to have a much better quarterback here in Cam Ward. And obviously the Titans have a lot they got to build around Cam Ward. But it seems like finally there may be some movement, some, realignment in the front office that actually makes sense for once. I don't expect immediate results here, but cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, it's fair. I think Saleh could have handled that situation with the Rodgers better. Some decisions that his last year as a Jets coach I didn't like at all, but maybe with the Titans he will flourish.
Yeah, at least it's hard to be worse than Brian Callahan. So don't try to be worse than that, please. The Falcons have hired Kevin Stefanski, just got fired by Cleveland. I don't love them doing a retread here. Like, I don't really get what this is going to accomplish for Atlanta. Because I really think he kind of screwed up the Baker Mayfield situation. He obviously didn't play Shedeur Sanders when he was the best quarterback option they had for most of the year. I don't know. Like, I don't particularly think he handled the Browns particularly well.
Yeah, I think Stefanski knows his game, but definitely have some personnel issues.
Right, and speaking of quarterback being the issue in Cleveland most of the years, I mean the Atlanta quarterback situation isn't good either. I mean, there's questions about if Michael Penix is any good, if Kirk Cousins still has any legs left. I don't know. I think for Atlanta, they're just clearly it feels like they're wasting Bijan Robinson. Is what it feels like. So, anyway, the Ravens, they hired the Chargers DC Jesse Minter. When it comes to coordinators, and the same thing for Dolphins hiring Jeff Hafley, I'm not sure, right? Obviously the Chargers had a really good defense. The Packers defense was good when they had Micah Parsons. When he didn't, they were okay. Jeff Hafley, he was the former head coach of Boston College before he became the DC of the Packers. So imagine going from head coach at Boston College to, in a few years, the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Pretty nice upgrade there for Jeff Hafley. Not really sure what to think of either one of those hires. I do think out of those four, I feel like the Ravens with Minter have the most opportunity for success just because you have Lamar Jackson. The Dolphins, we don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. Obviously, I think they're probably going to move on from Tua. And we know the Titans have Cam Ward, but the rest of the roster is so bad that it's going to take a minute to, I think, really bring that roster up to competitive snuff.
Yeah, but I like the hire that I like the most. Definitely Giants hiring John Harbaugh. I think that was a home run, no doubt about it.
I think it was too. We'll just have to find out if Jackson Dart really is that good of a quarterback.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. The last two American topics I really have here are college basketball related. The basketballs, when we left the podcast last time, they were up by a lot. And the second half was an absolute disaster, Gus. We blew a 17-point lead. I may have to borrow us from ever podcasting during basketball games again because we were 0-2 when we have done this podcast during the Tennessee basketball, at least this year. I don't know what's happening because remember the week before we were playing Florida, it was a good game. Soon we win the podcast, the balls fall apart. Or if we're gonna podcast during basketball, we got to stay during the entire game or something. But it just I don't know. Like this team they just don't have it this year. We don't have a true point guard. Jacoby Gillespie, while he can shoot, he makes way too many turnovers. To be fair, Nate Ament is playing a lot better. But I don't know. It's just it's not clicking for this team. We don't have a Zakai Ziegler to be the leader on the floor. You don't have a Jemai Meshack being the glue guy. You obviously don't have a Dalton Connect to bail you out. I mean, it's still a tournament team, but I don't think it's a team that's making it out of the first round.
I'll say this, Nick. Tennessee basketball, a lot of times in this last decade, exceeded in the regular season, disappoints in the postseason. Can we be the Cinderella where, no one sees us coming and we win it all?
Well, I mean, it would remind me a lot of like the last Conzo team in 2013 if that happened. And to be fair, like I don't want to. People who are giving up on the season entirely, I would highly urge against that. There's still a lot of games left, and I think especially Nate is growing a lot each game. So as long as you make the tournament, which I think this team is going to, anything can happen in the tournament. I don't particularly feel great about this team's ability to win a lot when they get there, at least right now, but it's still January 23rd. They've got Alabama tomorrow night on the road. We'll see what happens. And speaking of Alabama, this is a ridiculous situation, and they are allowed to bring back an NFL player. They used to be an Alabama player. He's getting to play in Alabama again. This is where the NCAA or someone's got to step in and say, look, no former professional basketball player or professional athlete can be in college. That has to be a line. And I get that the federal judge is saying like, oh, like the NCAA can't enforce that. Well, at that point, the federal judge should just say, well, the NCAA just can't exist anymore as an organization. Because that's what it sounds like. The judges are out here saying like, oh, they can't exist anymore.
Yeah, all because the NCAA, didn't want to compromise in the past, and they're getting screwed out of it.
Yeah, and the Ball's going to have to play against an NBA player. And honestly, at this point, why don't we bring back Kennedy Chandler? Or like some former like Yves Pons or John Fulkerson? Like, well, we should sue the NCAA and say, hey, we should be able to bring these players back. Like, because clearly there are no rules in college sports anymore. But to wrap up on a positive note, the Lady Vols, Kim Caldwell, they are cooking. They are undefeated in SEC play still, and they beat Alabama on the road Sunday and then outlasted Kentucky yesterday to get 2 straight ranked wins, and they are probably going to be in the top 15. Mia Pilatu is really starting to get going. Like, she is the best player on the team. And here next weekend, they go to UConn, which if you remember, they beat last year. They pulled off the upset against UConn, and they go to South Carolina the week after. 1-2 right now. I'll be curious to see how much progress the team has made when they play those two teams.
Yeah, it's definitely a good measure to see where this program at, especially if they win back-to-back against a very traditional program. Definitely is a step up.
Absolutely. So that's all the American stuff I have, Gus. I know it is match day down in Brazil as a new season is upon us.
Yeah, Rio Branco starts their season today in the afternoon, 1 p.m. American time, 3 p.m. Brazil time against Rio Preto. Another second season in a row in the third division of the state of Sao Paulo championship. Hopefully, this year we get the promotion that was denied last year by referee mistakes. And I'm confident the team is ready, and it's going to be a really, hopefully, a good game, and we get the W. And the state, but the first division of the state of São Paulo is very interesting right now because half of the regular season is done already because they're only going to play 8 games in the first, the with the regular, not regular season, but the first round before the playoffs. And the thing is, Sao Paulo is 1 point ahead of the relegation zone. They only won one game that I called was a terrible, terrible game. It's not that they didn't deserve to win, but the field conditions were terrible. So, they got the W, but outside of that, they're playing terribly. Of course, they're dealing with the political turmoil. The president got impeached and now resigned. The interim president took over. There are going to be new elections. So, the politics inside the club is definitely affect things on the field. And, but the other three big teams, they're in the qualification zone. But Palmeiras lost 4-0 on Tuesday against Novo Horizontino. That was, I believe, the worst loss for Abel Ferreira's tenure. He's been in Palmeiras since 2020, and it was his worst loss. But they're still in third place.
And they're losing 4-0 to anybody. I don't care, but that's their backup squad.
Yeah, no, yeah. Palmeiras fans, definitely the most vocal ones, the influencers, the one that went to social media calling for Abel Ferreira to be fired, for Leila to, do something. Yeah, but they're gonna have a derby, rivalry game on Saturday against Sao Paulo. So see what if Sao Paulo is gonna win, try to get back to the qualification zone, or Palmeiras beat Sao Paulo and they might fight for relegation. So we'll see. What's going to be next with only 4 games remaining in the first round of the Sao Paulo State Championship.
Absolutely, Gus. And man, just talk about this game tomorrow for Rio Branco. Man, it's going to be an exciting match. What's the key to the match for Rio Branco and Ponte Preta?
The key to the match, I think, definitely try to impose, a lot of pressure. From what I see in the preseason, this team can hustle. This team can be aggressive and try to not play defense even though they're on the road. This team has personality, and for me, one of the main players, he's going to start to, he's going to be very important. Is Vitor Jacaré, the big striker. I think he's definitely going to have a key role tomorrow.
It's going to be fun. Well, good luck. Vamos Tigre. I'll try to watch if I can. Obviously, it's going to be a little complicated given the weather situation, but, good luck tomorrow.
Thank you. Let's go. Vamos Tigre.
Absolutely. And that is all the time we have for this late night edition of Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. To everyone in America, be safe this weekend. Be smart. Don't try to go out and drive on ice if you don't have to. And if you're in Brazil, enjoy the nice weather. And if you're coming to parts of America, don't this week. Maybe wait until it's warm again. But for Gus Tomazelli on the road, I can't remember what city you're in.
São José do Preto.
I can't say that.
In English would be Saint Joseph of Black River.
From St. Joseph of the Black River, I'm Nick Hill from Chattanooga, Tennessee, United States. It's Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports, the only American and Brazilian sports podcast. Stay warm out there and be safe. Have a good night.